In terms of safety and security, that soundbite a moment ago from Donald Trump talking about training guns on the face of Liz Cheney. The Trump campaign says that was about foreign policy. Well, we just played it for our viewers and listeners who heard it. Isn't it possible to make the case without using rhetoric like that?
But Donald Trump doesn't talk like someone who's been in Washington for 30 years. He doesn't
training
say it the
guns
way
on
I
her
would have said it.
face?
No, but that's not what he said. Mario, you guys know that. Come on. I mean, everybody knows exactly what he was saying. What he was saying is, you're so much in favor of war. Yeah, you played a piece of the soundbite, because in another piece of it, he said he would give her a gun to go stand in conflict as well. You don't normally give a gun to someone that's going to be facing a firing squad, which is what much of the media made it sound like. The point he was making is not a new point. It is a point that has been made by people in both parties for decades, and that is, you're all for war, and it's easy to be for war when you're in some fancy building and you're safe and sound in Washington, D.C. Let's see how much you are for war when you yourself get deployed into combat. That's the point that he was making. That he uses language that maybe is not what we typically hear from someone that works at a think tank. Oh, fine. But I think it's truly not just unfair, it's egregious to see that reported the way that it was, along with other things that are out there. I've never seen such a concerted effort. Look, I've always believed there's bias because no one's unbiased, but I've never seen such a concerted effort like what I've seen, especially in the last 2 weeks, among multiple media outlets in this country, to, in some cases, breathlessly distort and lie about what's being said and to create and manufacture these gotcha moments against Donald Trump. I've never seen it before. It's over the top.
Desperation is palpable. As you saw from the intro, Marco Rubio had to set the record straight on the fact that they're selectively editing clips of Donald Trump when he talks about the war, Liz Cheney, why people like Liz Cheney ain't endorsing him, right? The media makes this whole desperate spin, right? A couple days ago, that's been thoroughly debunked, right? To the point where you got dudes from the Washington Post, essentially, actually, he quit his job. If I remember correctly, Hugh Hewitt, I think is the name of the reporter, the journalist, and this is why a lot of Republican journalists are an endangered species in journalism, right? And I talk about this bias and the way that Marco Rubio illustrated the events that's playing out around Donald Trump perfectly encapsulates what I've been saying for a long time on this channel. The media is overwhelmingly ran by liberals. Sure, a majority of them claim that they're independent, but that's a lie. If the news organizations and the news media was transparent about the percentage of their employees that donate to the Democratic Party, I'll beg to differ that 90% of them donate towards the Democratic Party. So in my view, I believe that they have a conflict of interest when they cover Democrats versus when they cover Republicans, right? And we obviously see it. Dana Bash is my biggest example. Look up interviews where Dana Bash interviews a Republican and pay attention to how she interviews them. Then same anchor. See how she conducts herself with Democrat politicians, and you're going to see a completely different approach. And this inconsistency is what breeds doubt into the credibility of the mainstream media. But do you think they listen? I don't think so, right? So I made mention of this before. This is Donald Trump. This is a clip, and they like to play the clip only up to this point, and then they stop because he clarifies more as he goes along. It's the same thing with the very fine people hoax that even Obama is still pushing right now. Make it make sense. I could spell that, a lot of people are stressed about the election. I don't have much anxiety about the election because I felt like I did everything I could. Hey, wherever the chips fall, the chips fall. But leading up to the election, I think I'm going to do my very damn best. And I'm going to have a live stream on the election day, 7 p.m. Hopefully it's not too late. But by then, we'll have a better understanding of what trends are we seeing during election day. And I want to talk about men because it seems like men are the majority of undecided voters coming towards the election day. But before I talk into that, I want to show this clip of Obama still pushing the very fine people hoax and what kind of angle I think Obama's trying to go with this speech. Let's take a look.
Maybe you're Muslim American or Jewish American, and you are heartbroken and furious about the ongoing bloodshed in the Middle East and worried about the rise of anti-Semitism. Why would you place your faith in somebody who instituted a so-called Muslim ban, who sat down for pleasantries with Holocaust deniers, who said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist rally.
In the closing arguments, even Obama cannot make a case for Kamala Harris. All he can do is try to make a case against Donald Trump. As you saw in the clip, he going to character assassination. You see it, right? And you know the media is not going to really fact check anything that Obama says. I'll be surprised if the mainstream media like CNN, ABC, CBS, they fact check Obama when he make these claims. And this is why I say, hey, do your own research, right? Because I think a lot of women already early voted, right? Based on the information I found here, right? Tim Pool says weak men in this country, but the problem I think I have, and this is where I'm a kind of not slander, but I'm gonna kind of go at Tim Pool a little bit, is that the reality is most undecided voters are men. So are you calling someone weak because they're still not deciding? They're waiting until the very last day of election to actually vote. And this is why I'm saying that a lot of people are stressing and anxious over this election. I'm not so, because I take breaks from this stuff over the weekends. Everyone know on this channel, I don't even look at politics over the weekend. Sunday night is usually when I start checking in and start preparing for these videos. And as you saw from early voting, overwhelmingly women, but that means during election day, people who will be voting will be overwhelmingly men, right? And all that, in the election, I always said this from the beginning, that I think men will decide this election. If men have a high turnout, Trump wins. Men have a low turnout, is a close race. That's just how I'm starting to see it, all right? And I said specifically white men, because the reason why Donald Trump lost 2020 is because white men shifted slightly away towards Biden. And that's how he won. That's how Donald Trump lost the election. He gained with Hispanic voters. He gained with black voters, but Trump still lost the election because of white male voters. And I think white male voters are going to decide the election once again. So this stuff by Obama, I don't think is going to work. Right? This is Thomas Sowell quote. One of the reasons it's taken so long for some people to finally see through Obama is that the people do not want to admit, even to themselves, that they have been played for a fool by a slick talking politician. And I also think this is what's also the MO of many Democratic voters, right? Because I found out my mom already voted, and apparently she dragged my little brother to vote for Harris. And I was like, yo, mom, why are you here? Like, you don't have no trust in your candidate to the point where you're here pressuring your young son to go vote for a Democrat that he doesn't even know anything about politics, but you're pressuring him, right? And this is the stuff that I'm talking about. Like, the media fear mongers, the media blows stuff out of proportions, and this is why I have such a disdain for the mainstream media, because I feel like they're manipulative. I see you're a manipulative institution that's here just to push people to go down your interest. That's it. You're not here to inform the people. You're not here to give the people the truth. You're here to give them perception, propaganda. And this is why trust in the media is an all-time low. Greg Foreman says that the liberal media is going to blow up one outlier poll until election day to motivate Democrats to vote. Their numbers are down in early voting, and they need hopium. This is a psyop to save Harris. Don't fall for it. Vote. All right, and this is them talking about an outlier poll where they have, I think, Kamala winning Ohio, which was safely read 8 points. I think it was 8 points for Trump in 2020, if I remember correctly. And these guys, they're pulling out all the stops. And this is some of the reason why people think like the mainstream media is not the party of the regular people. It's a party of elites that sit in their ivory tower thinking they know what's best for you, right? And this is why you have conservative journalists like Hugh Hewitt quitting the Washington Post. One day out of the election, guys. I at this point, it's more of a like the calm before the storm. Because I already know this election is going to be wild. This is going to be a wild election. It's crazy. It truly will be a wild election, right? And I want to show this clip with Vivek Ramaswamy, and he gave an interesting commentary that I think I want to share here about like something I've been saying too, that for when they say Trump is a threat to democracy, in reality, what they're saying is Donald Trump's a threat to their bureaucracy. And you see how Obama attacks him. You see how the media tries to castigate him as, oh, he's calling for an execution of a politician. When do you that last time you seen the media protect a Republican this hard like Liz Cheney? Because they have a common interest, right? Especially if you see that their advertising dollars are being heavily supported by pharmaceutical companies. Donald Trump is willing to put RFK in charge of the health organization. You're gonna Donald Trump. If Donald Trump gets in, he's gonna disrupt a lot of their things that they got going on in the government, and they do not want that to happen. So Donald Trump is actually a threat to their bureaucracy. But I digress. Let's have Vivek finish out his thoughts here.
I hope when we deliver that victory on November 6th, the Democratic Party learns once and for all that identity politics doesn't work. You get rotten leaders at every time when you use race and gender to select somebody for their job. And I'm actually talking about Tim Walz this time, by the way. It doesn't work in any direction at all. You know, you got kids coming in, they'll say, oh, he went in as a boy, now he identifies as a girl. It's like what happened at the top of the Democratic ticket. This thing was a coup all the way down. The Democratic Party has now become the party of censorship, has now become the party of war, has now become the party that is hostile to the working class in this nation. But it doesn't have to stay that way. You know, President Trump often says this, and he's right, that we are a nation in decline. That's what we've become. But it doesn't have to stay that way. We don't have to be at the end of the ancient Roman Empire. We don't have to be this nation in decline. We still can be a nation in our ascent. A nation whose best days are actually still ahead of us. Still a country where we will look our kids in the eye and mean it when we tell them that you get ahead in the United States of America with your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication, and that you know what? You are free to speak your mind at every step of the way. That is the American dream. That is what we are running to. That is how we will make America great again. I hope when we deliver
that I think that's one of the best speeches I had, especially as a closing argument, because you heard nothing about Kamala. Yeah, like this is the Republican Party that I want to support, right? You got liberal Hollywood. Oh, I don't know what she is. I think she was a famous fitness girl. I forgot her name. Julian Michaels. She admitted that she voted for Trump. I'll put it this way. He wasn't my choice. He wasn't my choice out of the candidates that were running for the primaries. I do understand his flaws. Trust me, I could list all of them. But problem for me is that it's become a question of lesser evils. Hey, look. When y'all want to do this little trade-off thing, Donald Trump gives the best trade-offs. Just honest opinion, right? And this is the funny part about the Democrats. The Democrats sit here pretend that they're one of you, but when you look at the race, Trump, when he campaigns with the regular working class person as well with the donors. Kamala only campaigns really with donors, right? She goes to these fancy Hollywood galas, these celebrity-only type of things where the famous, the rich, and the famous are surrounding her. She bringing them in to get the masses to vote for her, right? Cardi B, the recent one that comes to mind right now over the weekend. She's here saying she'll never endorse a candidate again, and here she is endorsing Kamala Harris because she said Kamala convinced her. I'm just being honest. Cardi B, someone who just complained about inflation like I complain about inflation, but she's going to vote for the same party that got her into the inflation in the first place. Come on. Change is outside your comfort zone, right? And this is my appeal to undecided voters, who are mostly men. Men are going to decide this election. Whether they show up or not, it's because it's going to be on men. This is just my thoughts, right? But before then, I want to show off this clip of a local race. I forget who it is, but it's Lilly Tang Williams, and she's going viral. And even though she has broken English, she was more clear. I understood her more clearly than I ever understood Kamala Harris, and that's not an understatement. Let's take a look.
This is a worldview that my opponent has embraced. She believes that we should give a break to the wealthiest and the biggest corporations and hope for the best, hope that the results will trickle down to hardworking people. I take a very different approach. I believe that the middle class deserves a tax cut, and I believe that we will do a lot for this country by ensuring that we don't continue this disastrous tax policy.
Ms. Tang Williams.
You are wealthy. You are worth $20 million to $30 million. How do you know about regular people suffering? Do you go shopping, go to Walmart, buy food? I talk to those people. And you pretend to be renter in Nashua a few months ago, moved back to run for this open seat with millions of dollars from Washington, D.C. insiders. And the millions of dollars, I don't have money to run a TV ad. And you pretend you are poor, complain rent is so high. You couldn't save that apartment for other people to rent in Nashua. Just go back to your $2 million home in Portsmouth. Please don't say that, because you do not understand regular people's concern. People cry in my arms on District 2.
Yeah, that was I forget the congressional race that this is in, but apparently it's this one that she's running against, the Republican Lilly Tang Williams, who she's running against, is the wife of Jack Sullivan. I think he's the national security advisor. Jack Sullivan's wife gets absolutely bodied after she accused Republican Lilly Tang of just wanting to help the rich. And this messaging from the Democrats, it's not going to work. It is not going to work, right? Because Don Lemon left in practically tears after he tried to talk to a Pennsylvania resident and got a major reality check. Turns out in Pennsylvania, it's Trump signs 10-1, right? But other than Don Lemon getting pretty much pushback from this undecided voter, I want to illustrate something that I think many undecideds are men, because I have another brother of mine that he does not want to vote at all. He's like, yo, I have no interest in it. I don't want to. And if you're too pushy, you turn those guys off. And that's the kind of thing that I'm seeing, is that we used to think that undecideds are just like very diverse, whatever people. You got women. I'm sure there is, but I feel like a lot of the women are more decided on Trump than the men are. Right. And I think this guy, when you hear him speak, you're going to get that sense of it. Right. But I have belief that many men are going to make the same calculations that I made, and they're going to vote Trump at the end of the day. So election day, just got to sit back and wait and see what people decided to do. Right. Because that's how I see it. I think I did all my job. I think I did everything I could. I advocated for the best. I released a video making, I guess, my best case. I tried to make my best case. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I did not. But it doesn't matter. I want you guys to check out this video so you guys get a better sense of how someone who's more undecided in a swing state is thinking about the election. Let's take a look.
I'm undecided yet. I will tell you.
You're undecided?
I'm undecided.
Wait, how can you be undecided at this point?
Just a lot of things to take into consideration, and yeah, I'm going to be making a decision here by Tuesday.
So you're going to go? You're not going to do early or mail in or anything like that?
No, I need the time.
You need the time to figure it out.
I need the time to.
And this is something I would caution. Like, I see a lot of conservative, big conservatives, like Tim Pool, men are weak. No, many men are undecided, and you ain't going to pressure them. Like, one thing I know, even as a man myself, one thing I know is if someone's pressuring me, I'm gonna be like, I ain't gonna do it out of spite now. I'm not gonna vote out of spite now. People just don't prefer to early vote. Right? I talked to my aunt from my wife's side, and she's like, nah, I'm not early voting. I'm voting in person. Right? Just people have their preferences. And I noticed there's a lot older demographic too that tends to take their time. And last time I checked, older demographic people tend to vote more actively than young voters. I think early vote is more for the young voters, the more less engaged voters, and also people who already had their decision. Technically, who's already decided on Trump, decided on Harris, right? But the undecideds, if you would think, many people who are not going to vote early are people who are still on the fence about whether or not who they're going to support. And I think many of those are men. As you saw from the early polling projections that I showed you, a lot of it's women. Majority of the early vote was women. So I don't know. I just think, hey, make your case, put out the information out there, and undecided voters will look for it and weigh their options. And I think that's what's going on right now. When you're making a life-changing decision, essentially, this may be actually the most consequential election in our lifetime. That's something that I think many undecided voters are really taking their time until the last day, the last second, the last hour to come to a decision.
Yeah, this is a very important county.
Very important state.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, agreed.
How do you think it's going to go? First, the county.
Trump.
And the state.
Trump.
You think so?
I do.
Why?
I'm in the sign industry. I travel all around the state on a weekly basis. And just based on people I've spoken to and the signs I see, I'm a sign guy, I know the signs. And the Trump signs probably outnumber the Harris signs 10-1 throughout the state. So, gut feel.
So, okay.
I have nothing to base that on, just gut feel. I'm really just trying to look at the policies, and I'm trying to ignore the personalities to a degree. But it's hard to.
How so? What do you mean by that?
Harris comes across as very likable, almost soft-spoken and relatable to the general public, where I think Trump comes off as just the opposite. But he gives people a sense of strength, okay, that they're craving. And I don't feel that they see that strength in Harris. I think it's very strange for me, somebody like me, to be middle of the road and can't make a decision, because you're either, you know, as I see it, you're one side or the other.
Yeah.
So,
do you think that what you're saying, I'm going to be honest with you, as a man, it's like there's a machismo that he has, and you are interpreting that as strength, where you can have a quiet strength and be a very strong woman and still accomplish things?
Oh, agreed. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, and that's honestly the thing about, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I voted for Trump the first time around. He turned me off a little bit this time around. So I'm a registered Republican, but I'm not the type of person who just votes Republican across the board. I voted Democrat in the past.
Yeah, so he's a true undecided voter, right? Like, or independent, or more down the middle person. If he voted Democrat before, he voted Republican before. So I think I played enough. I think you guys get a general sense. This, I will say, he personifies maybe a more right-leaning, undecided voter, right? You heard a lot about the personalities. And I think this is why the media focus so hard on trying to paint Trump as such a bad guy, unsensitive, unempathetic. They try to dehumanize him towards a degree, because I believe this guy's perception's off being kind of conditioned because he's an older person, and older people tend to get most of their news and information from television. 87% of the time, the media is covering Donald Trump negatively. And even with the media doing that and only covering Harris in a positive light, we heard it, Harris is likable, relatable. But why strength keeps coming up in his head? Because Trump's able to fight against the media. And the guy's like, if he's able to fight against this whole institution that hates his guts, imagine what he does for us and protect us. And also the fact that he previously was president already, that also helps Trump's case. So the negative coverage is not having the same effect that it used to have in 2016. And he voted for him the first time around in 2016. He probably didn't vote 2020. But this is why I'm saying I think he's leaning towards Trump. But I think there's something else that he has not outlined that's really holding him back. But I don't want to keep playing. I don't want to keep holding you guys here. That was just my quick thoughts about like 1 day away from the election. I'll have a live stream on the election night. I don't know how long I'm going to go for election night. I think I'm going to go maybe I'm going to try to do 2 hours, but I'm still trying to figure that out in my head. But I'll let you know with more details on a community post. But I appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.